Hi, this is David Rose, and welcome to the first episode of Manna Break. On today's episode, we're going to be looking at religion versus relationship. Perhaps you've heard the phrase that Christianity is a relationship, not a religion. I believe that statement is true, but what does that even mean, really? Well, that's what we're going to look at today. First off, let's define religion. A dictionary definition is a specific fundamental set of beliefs and practices generally agreed upon by a number of persons or sects. For any religion, these beliefs usually are attributed towards a higher power of some sort, and they often have a moral code of conduct. Some good things about religion is that it can help us behave ethically. It can give us a sense of belonging, and it can also help us answer questions about our existence and purpose. The bad things about religion, though, is that it can also be used as a weapon. It can be used to rally around violent ideals, demand conformity, and persecute any non-believers. At first glance, Christianity falls into the category of religion perfectly, both the good and the bad sometimes. So where does the relationship part come in? We know that Christianity is a relationship because God shows us through the scriptures that He desires it. The whole of the Bible is a story about the relationship between God and us. In the beginning, God created us to be in relationship with Him, but we ended up destroying that relationship within just a few sentences. God eventually restores that relationship through His Son, Jesus, because we end up failing at being faithful to God time and time again. Also, Jesus establishes relationships while He's in the flesh. He doesn't just appear one day as an adult just to die on a cross and be resurrected. No, He spends time first on earth as a child. And then as an adult, He goes out among the people. He heals the sick and preaches that the kingdom is at hand. Eventually, He recruits and trains disciples of His own to follow in His stead. Ironically, the people that Jesus had the most trouble with were not the unbelievers and the sinners, but the religious elite, the Pharisees and the Sadducees who used their religion to abuse others. Finally, because Jesus has been resurrected and is living and is not dead, and because we have the Holy Spirit within us, always pointing towards Him, we now have access to that relationship that God the Father had always intended back in Genesis. If you find this confusing or hard to believe in any way, I know I struggled with this in my own faith journey. I grew up religious, and I read about God, and I read about God's 10 Commandments, and I read some stories about God, but I didn't know who God was. And then as a young adult, I had decided that what I had learned about God and religion, the thou shalt and thou shalt nots, were not cutting it for me. So I decided that I would get rid of that altogether, and instead I would do what I want when I wanted. And I must admit, at first, putting away religion had a great sense of freedom that I got to do what I wanted. But over time, over the course of many years, I began to get lost and find that there was no real sense of purpose to my life. After a while, when that lost sense of purpose got to me, I decided one day that I would give relationship a try. I'd heard about God wanting relationship, but I didn't understand it. So I gave it a try. One day I remember calling out to God, and to my surprise, He answered me in a big way. So I wanted to end every episode with a challenge to you, the viewer, because it's one thing to hear the gospel being preached, but to apply it in your life, that is another thing entirely. So here is this week's challenge. If you haven't yet experienced that relationship with God, then I encourage you to give it a try. You might be surprised, and I doubt you could have been more offensive than I was. Because when I prayed to God that day, I remember literally praying, God, I don't even know if you exist, but if you do, please answer me. And to my surprise, God responded. Imagine if you went on a first date to initiate a relationship with someone and you said, I don't know if I really acknowledge you as a human being. Try to see how that would go on a first date. But God looked past that and decided to respond to me anyway. For those of you that are in a relationship with God already, I encourage you to nourish that relationship then, because the most intimate relationships are the ones where we stay in constant communication. We shouldn't pray, meditate, read scriptures, or fast because we want to hear holy or because we're doing some religious to-do list. No, we do those things to maintain relationship with God. So I encourage you to maintain constant communication as you can. Well, that's the episode for this week. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to tune in next week for the next episode of Manna Break. Thanks for watching.